Hello and welcome to Talk Good Game. It's the match preview of Huddersfield Town against West Ham United Saturday, 3 p.m. just before the international break. Both sides looking to hit consecutive victories for the first time in a while. Since February for Huddersfield, but since January 2017 for West Ham, nearly 2 years ago since we won back-to-back games of the Premier League. Gonzo, let's start with their opponents. What's your thoughts on them?
Well, I think the manager's done a remarkable job to keep them up last year. I would imagine that their relegation certainties this year. I think he did wonderfully well to get them promoted. He did even better to keep them up. And as we were discussing on one of our other videos recently about Sean Dyche, were Burnley to go down. If they did go down, I would like them to retain him. They're struggling for goals, as we've also discussed. I think they had the magic of Moy last season, and they certainly rallied really well towards the end. I just can't see it happening. And I watched the game against Fulham, and it was turgid, awful stuff, really. I should have a bet on Fulham, either winning or drawing, and they didn't say fair play to Huddersfield. But when we played last season, we played them twice last season. They were the worst team I saw at the London Stadium, and were pretty awful away from home as well. But I do like them. I like what they've done, and I love the story. And I hope if they do go down, they keep them.
Yeah, I can only really say what you've said there. I like David Wagner. I think he's a fantastic manager. And when we got rid of Moyes, he's someone that was quite high up on my list of managers I wouldn't mind seeing at West Ham. And once Pellegrini goes, given the age difference and stuff, once Pellegrini does go, David Wagner's someone I wouldn't mind seeing come in succession. I like the way he tries to play with Huddersfield. He likes to press defences, etc. It can be a bit too crossy for my liking, but then that's what suits his style. They are a big physical team. He likes his big target man up front. But I think that's the problem, the striker. They don't have anyone to stick the ball in the back of the net, and I think that's what's going to get them relegated come the end of the season. But if there's one team I really want to see survive, it is Huddersfield. I really want to see them in the Premier League next year. But it's one of those, they've got that little, you get that vibe about the club, that if they stay up this year, next year will be the year they go down. They manage to stay up that year somehow, it'll be the following year. They're going to go back down sooner eventually. You get that feeling. It's just a shame, really. It's a bit of a fairy tale, but it's just not going to have the happy ending. Billing got sent off. Sorry, didn't get sent off. He got his fifth booking on Monday night. Gonzo, how big a boost is that, in your opinion, for us?
He's the big lad, right? Well,
Yeah,
they're a big team, but he's
all number 8 with a funny hair.
Yeah. He's obviously a big part of their plans. I think Moy he missed some games, I think, at the start of the season. I think he's back for them, and that's certainly, I think, the creative hub. Any first team player, and I do think I know he has been performing well, because I think he was, when I look into fantasy football, he's up there. I think their defender Schindler always scores quite highly, and Billings does as well. So that's any player of that ilk who performs well for a team like Huddersfield is going to be a huge miss. They can't afford to have a luxurious squad of players, and whoever comes in, I would imagine, won't be as good as him.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, Billing's someone I wouldn't mind at West Ham, actually. And I know Sky Sports gave man a match to their captain Hogg on Monday night, but actually Billing was my man a match. I thought he was head and shoulders the best player on the pitch. He was the one player. Moy has that bit of quality with the ball. Billing puts himself about. And the best thing about watching the game on Monday was seeing Billing pick up his fifth booking and miss the game against us on Saturday. 80% of Huddersfield's goals so far this season have been scored in the first half, which is a all-time league high so far this season. But Gonzo, will they stay up? We both seem destined that they are destined to go back down. Do you think they're pretty much guaranteed to go back down already?
They just lack quality. They lack any sort of, well, not any sort of quality. That's maybe not accurate, because we've discussed a couple of players that are decent enough, but you just need a little bit more than that. And the one hope they may have, if they have any hope at all, is that there are some pretty terrible teams in the Premier League this year, and you'd certainly put Cardiff amongst them. I mean, Fulham are bottom of the league, but you would have to imagine that, because of the money they spent, they would get going at some point. Worst comes to worst, they'll change their manager and somebody else comes in and gets them up the league. Newcastle, of course, got to win. Are they going to be 3 worst teams in Huddersfield? I think that's the question. And I just can't see it.
The one thing I think will keep Huddersfield up is their work ethic, their grit, their determination. And it kept them up last year. They tried to turn football matches into battles almost, and it worked for them. If they can get Mooney scoring. I quite like Mooney. I like him, and he's a good player in the air, etc. But I think Huddersfield, I could be wrong, but I think Huddersfield are the only team this season so far who doesn't have a striker that has scored for them. All their goals have come from midfielders or defenders. They haven't. None of their players have scored at home this season. One on Monday night was, of course, an own goal in the end. So they still haven't had a Huddersfield player score at home. But I do think they've got that work ethic. They work hard. They're organised. It's not going to be easy on Saturday. I mean, I think they only lost 1-0 at Anfield. There's not a lot of teams who go to Anfield only concede once. It's almost an achievement in themselves, because you could then say if they just had that little bit of quality up front that could snatch half a chance, they could have come away with something at Anfield. Like you said, there are poor teams out there, and I do think a lot of those teams might eventually stop playing for the manager, etc. I think Huddersfield have got a lot better commitment than teams around them in the relegation zone, and they've now got a little bit of experience from last season. They've now got a little bit of experience in a relegation battle. They know not to let their heads drop, because they survived at the last minute last season, and it was just as good as City winning the title. I actually think keeping Huddersfield up was a bigger achievement than Pep Guardiola winning the title with Man City. Gonzo spoke about a couple of players there. Is there any you fear on Saturday, or any you'd like to see at West Ham possibly?
No, and it's hard. I don't want to sound. It's not like we're doing a Tottenham preview, and I want to say something nasty about the opposition. I've got no bad feelings or ill intentions toward Huddersfield at all. And I do think they've done a remarkable job, and I don't want to damn them with faint praise either. But no, I can't think that there's too many I would be looking to pilfer for West Ham, particularly in light of some of the players we brought in, some of the youngsters we've got coming through, and our defence is starting to play the offside trap quite well. I guess any central midfielder would probably help us at the moment. And getting our team, because we're just so low on central midfielders. But I would imagine we possibly won't be shopping in Huddersfield when we do eventually find someone for the central position.
Moy and Billy are the two I wouldn't mind seeing at West Ham. I kind of like Jonathan Hogg, actually. He's a little terrier in there, and I do, no pun with their nickname meant, but I think he'll get booked on Saturday because he's going to throw himself about. But if there's a 50-50, he's winning it. You will not beat Jonathan Hogg in a 50-50 tackle, that's for sure. Their right back, I don't know his name, he's the right wing back on Monday night. I've never heard of him really before. He looks awful. He looks like Chiati with the ball. There's something very unnatural about the way he moves and kicks the ball and stuff. Watch on Saturday. Watch the right. He's got a really long name. If you can use his name in Scrabble, you get a lot of points for it, because there's lots of funny coins.
It begins with an H. I'm looking at the screen now. Is it Hadza Jumanji?
Something like that. But there's a couple of times on Monday he would run 50 yards with the ball, and Sessegnon just nudged him, and he fell over, and he went for a goal kick. And I just thought there's something. He doesn't look like a footballer to me, but their strength is in there. And if Huddersfield can get the ball wide and get in their box, they might have a little bit of success against us, because that's where Burnley found success against us. Anyway, moving on to West Ham. Gonzo, this could be a very short bit, but we normally say, well, who do you want to see start? To quote the man behind me with a microphone, is that a case of As You Were?
Yeah. Is that a song, is it?
No, it's his saying. It's his album.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember that one. That was probably one of Noel's songs, wasn't it? That Liam doesn't sing anymore. It's got to be As You Were, and definitely maybe As You Were.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, but what I did find nice was the final goal, which was that showed our substitutes can not only come on and do something, but combine and do something as well. And I did think the last goal was a good goal. It was the icing on the cake, but I just loved the way Antonio chested it to Chicharito, who looked like Chicharito and finished like him as well. It was a very, very composed finish. So whilst I keep the team the same, I do think it's really good to have those sort of guys coming off the bench, you know?
Just on the bench, would you keep Perez on it? Because against Burnley, we didn't have any centre midfielder on the bench, but we had Antonio and Hernandez, and we also had Perez as well. So do you see him sort of justifying taking up a squad position, or would you rather see Connor Coventry on there so we do have a centre midfielder on the bench?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm yet to be convinced about Perez. I think I would need to see some more. And I understand he scored the header in the last throws of a game, and it was a cup game, wasn't it? But I would prefer to see a young player on the bench, and particularly a central midfielder, if that's the case. But we're so low on players, and I am and I am feeling that I do trust what Pellegrini wants to do. And I do feel that, yes, it is a little bit, as you said, a little bit like Bilic sometimes, who just keeps on chucking on attackers. But in many respects, if he hasn't got a midfielder that he thinks is ready to step into that first team, I don't mind that. So if that's what he wants to do and he feels that Perez might be able to come on and change the game, then that's absolutely fine. And I think with Snodgrass moving in field, which is sort of needs must, it might well be a square peg in a round hole, but he's done all right, and maybe he feels with his fitness, which he is a fit player, isn't he? That bar an injury, he'll just play all games. Maybe he feels doesn't need to substitute.
Yeah, I would just like to see commentary on there. It's more for cover for Obiang, who apparently got a knock against Burnley, but Pellegrini's conference today said there's no injury issues ahead of Saturday's game, so we will be starting with the same 11. I just don't see the point of having Antonio Hernandez and Perez on the bench and no centre midfielder, and then having Masuaku, Fredericks, and Ogbonna. So you've got 3 defenders and 3 attackers, but no centre midfielder. And centre midfielders where we have 3 players playing on the pitch, and an injury to one of them, your whole team's a bit. I know you can put Fredericks on, move Zabaleta in there, but then you're moving 2 people instead of just doing a like for like. And I just think we're almost putting senior players on the bench just because they're senior players, and actually eventually Pellegrini's going to have a tough call to make, which I'm going to speak about in a second. And I would just like to see a player on there that actually, if a centre midfielder did get injured, we can actually put a centre midfielder on rather than another square hole, because in a round peg, if you like. No changes for personnel for me either. Is there any changes you'd like to see that doesn't include people to what the performance you saw against Burnley?
Sorry, what you mean?
Well, for example, I think we need to be a bit more wary with set pieces, because against Burnley, I thought we were very relaxed, if you like. We had Snodgrass marking the tallest player on the pitch from a corner, for example. Chris Wood hit the bar from a header as well. This Huddersfield team, their strength is in the air, in my opinion. It is with Mooney, Schindler, Zanka. They do have tall, physical, big players in that box. And I just think if we defend like we did against Burnley at set pieces, I think Huddersfield could get their first goal at home.
Yeah, it's a good point. Funny enough, my son was just before he went to bed, was in the lounge watching Match of the Day, and he was just watching the highlights of the West Ham game. He's been away at his nan's, and I was just looking at that, and Wood did come on and have 2 chances, and I was thinking a little bit about that, but I think with our 2 centre backs, they're building an understanding, they're building a cohesion, and I do think that they're just going to keep on improving, and they're building like a solid, like a wonder wall, if you like, like a solid base at the back. And Diop is such a big, imposing player. You've got one of them with the timing. No, I'd keep things as they are, because I do think we're improving, but I do agree it was slightly worrying how they got in, towards the end, Burnley.
Well, just change up a bit, since we're not recommending any changes for Pellegrini. Gonzo, this is the last game for Mark Noble's suspension, and after the international break, we may have Jack Wilshere and Andy Carroll back. Pellegrini's expecting to have them back. So that would be 3 senior players who, at least 2 of them, you could say would be demanding a starting 11. It's just a chance for the starting 11 to sort of leave them 3 on the bench for the Man City game.
Well, look, if we get a second win in a row, then there's no way that anybody can come and walk into that team. And I would include Mark Noble, who's obviously been around for ages. Looks like he's going to live forever, doesn't he? So, sorry, we're squeezing as many as we can. But you can't expect to just come back into it. You can't. And I thought this was always going to be a pivotal season for him. If he's gonna. I think Pellegrini said that he would keep him as captain. He'd be captain as long as he played. And I did think that was the crucial comment then. And when you've got someone like Snodgrass who's been out of favour for that long and then comes in and maybe doesn't make the right-hand side his own position, which he thought, but has now found himself a place in central midfield with that sort of work ethic, then it's going to be very, very hard, as long as we keep winning, for Mark or anyone else to get back into the team.
Indeed. Gonzo, would you class this one as a must-win? Not necessarily because we need the points, but because of given that we are trying to be sort of the best of the rest, if you like. Does this become a must-win fixture?
Yeah, I think it was something like 8 of the whatever 9 next 9 games. We're playing the 8 bottom teams or something like that. This is our pivotal point in the season. Bearing in mind our start to the season, we're not looking bad at all. in terms of where we are. I didn't expect top 6 or top 4 or anything like that. But this is our chance to push on and push up into mid-table and maybe a little bit higher. So when we do get past these run of the next 9 games and we hit, the Christmas schedule and sort of New Year and all the rest of it, when it gets a little bit tougher and the games get a little bit harder, maybe we might drop a few points there. But this is time to make hay while the sun shines, no doubt about it.
Are you confident? Are you confident in Pellegrini having a master plan?
Yeah, absolutely. He's electric. The way he's been setting out the team at the moment. But in all seriousness, even before we won the game against Burnley, I sort of liked the way we played. And I was on the forum and I was very, very conscious. I didn't want to criticise him because I've gone on for a long, long time about just wanting somebody that was going to play some entertaining football. And I was I got bored, sometimes when we had 20, what about under Moyes? There was one game, I think we had 90% possession or something like that. Those are the days I never wanted to see again. And we have a go now and we have the ball and we do attack. And sometimes that offside trap is going to fail. But we are going to have attacks. And sometimes you're going to get games like that, like you've got against Burnley, where you score 4 goals. I'm happy with what Pellegrini's doing.
Yeah, I have to agree. Little by little, he's finally been putting the pieces together, and we're seeing the rewards. We've seen the rewards against Burnley, and I think it's going to carry on at Huddersfield. On paper, I think you always say this, don't you? I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it is what it is. We are a lot better than Huddersfield on paper. If we have our strongest 11, actually, if we have this 11 out, I think you could maybe argue a case for Moy to start in our starting 11. That's it. I think the other 10 would be West Ham players, and if we can match them for effort, for commitment, for organisation, we win this game. If we do not win this game, it's because something went wrong, whether it's the planning or the players' performances, etc. But if we do what we did against Burnley, I expect nothing less than 3 points on Saturday. Usually away from home, I would say a point's a good point, etc. But actually, I'd be quite disappointed if we're sitting here on Saturday night talking about a draw at Huddersfield. While it is still a draw, I'll be disappointed. I'll see it as an opportunity lost, actually, if we do not pick up all 3 points. Huddersfield are the only side. West Ham United did the double over last season in what was a bit of a poor season for us. They're the only team we beat twice. Gonzo, we've got a new show. Would you care to tell people about the new show, which they can click on in a second?
I am more than happy to tell people about the new show. The new show is a regular feature. It is, I think I've titled it the Premier League Preview Show. Does what it says in the tin. So that's what it is. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at all the Premier League fixtures, giving a prediction, talking a little bit about the team, and also tying it in with something which is a football index app, which allows you to trade on players, basically. So if you're crap at betting like me, and you do, as I said in the last game, tip Fulham to beat Huddersfield, and then they don't, this is quite good, because if you fancy a player, then you can hedge your bets and sort of invest in that player, and it's a little bit safer, really. So yeah, tune in. We'll put the link at the end of the video.
We're both quite confident, Gonzo, maybe rightly so. We'll be back, of course, on Saturday night with our review. But before we disappear, would you care to put your neck on the line once more and give us a score prediction?
Do you know what I mean, Gio? I think I'm going for a 3-0 win.
3-0. That's cool. I'll go for 2. I'll go for 2-0 West Ham. But anyway, you can join us on Saturday. We'll have a review. Hopefully, Huddersfield won't be on the live chat. Tell me and Gonzo, don't look back in anger. We'll be celebrating 3 points for West Ham United. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here, and we'll see you on Saturday night.